Hi guys, welcome to another edition of Southdown Garage. I'm subbing in for Kurt today. I'm just going to show you a quick, we're doing the rear brakes on a Ford Transit, 2019 Ford Transit 250 single rear wheel with a 3.25 cylinder diesel engine. The rear brakes in these are quite a bit different than others. You would think that just putting a hat type rotor on there would be fantastic, but Ford had to think of something new, probably copyright stuff and whatever they do. So I'll give you a quick rundown on what we've got going on here. If you look here at the rear brakes, okay, so the flange here goes up and over the rotor. So the rotor itself is actually held in by the flange for the axle. I was looking at this and I was thinking, how the heck do you get that out of there? And then you got the big holes in the side, inside here, which is kind of, I thought was odd. So I did a little bit of research, talked to a buddy of mine at Ford. He gave me the lowdown on it. So first thing we're going to talk to you about is that. Then we're going to show you some of the parts we're going to get. There's 5 bolts that hold the axle flange on. There's the new ones from Ford. There's the part number if you want to look it up. There's the rear brake pads. I've already done one side and I wanted to videotape this after. These bolts here are torque to yield. You torque them to 50 foot-pounds and then 90 degree after that. With the torque to yield, you can only use them once and you have to replace them. Don't try to get away with it. It's be a real bad thing if your axle went flying out. So you need a drip pan that I've got down there. You need some basic hand tools. There's nothing special on the back. Front I'll try to cover on another video. I've done them, but I think I'll tear them apart and do them again afterwards. So we're going to disconnect the caliper. You need a 13mm wrench and a pair of pliers to hold it in place. Pliers to hold it in place, 13mm ratchet wrench. I'm going to drop a couple times as I do that. They're not super tight, but there is a torque spec on those. Called tight. And we are replacing these as well because they have locked on them. They're not any torque to yield or anything like that, but it's always good practice to replace as much hardware as you can. That's that. You need a screwdriver. Don't let your caliper hang by the hose. I've got a little crate there to put it on. Everything's all good there. Ta-da. This side, the inboard pad is worn a fair bit more than the outboard pad. The other side of the truck was way worse. It was starting to make noise. I was doing an oil change, that's when I found it. So next, we're going to take off the caliper hanger. For that, we need a 15mm ratchet wrench. I think we'll need a persuader to get her going. And I don't like hitting a ratchet wrench with a hammer, so we're going to use a regular wrench. Try real hard not to hit your fingers. All else fails. There we go. Easy peasy. This is usually where you bash a finger and swear a bit, but try to keep it family friendly. You can't get in there with the impact. Okay, so you saw us there, we got the axle out itself. Wipe her down, you're gonna have a little bit of oil leak, that's why you have the drain pan. There is actually, all hardware is replaced on this. The caliper hanger bolts, we have those as well. And I forgot to mention that. And you take the axle out, now you gotta take the rotor out. We are replacing rotors. I like to do it every time. You could cut these ones, but there's a fair bit of ridge there, so we would wanna replace them anyways. So we sprayed it down with a bit of penetrating oil. They get a fair bit of rust. There's a lot of heat being created, obviously, it's brakes. So next we have to separate the rotor from the flange, and it kind of looks weird because we're gonna actually go back the opposite way. Don't miss. And keep on beating that thing. Okay, so that was a lot of work. I got it broke free now. You come down here, it's all broke free there, so you can see quite a bit of distance. The way I got it, if you couldn't see, I put the bolts back in, a couple of them just loosely. The threads are in the rotor, so we don't care about damaging anything. We're replacing all that stuff. And I beat them in, you saw that. And now we got these holes. We have to spin the axle so they line up with that. So that's how you take it out. Okay, I had a new school thought. Well, I didn't like the way it was not coming out. It's just a lot of rust built up on there. So I made myself a little plate that goes across, grabs 2 of the bolts. At least if I had time, I would make one that did 3. And it's off. See, if you try to think around a problem, you'll find a solution. Don't be stuck on hitting it with a hammer because it's usually not the best thing for them anyways. Puts a lot of load on the bearing there and everything like that that you just don't need to. But I made a tool, and that's always fun too. Okay, we're gonna clean her up now. Brake clean, it's liberally on it. And a wire brush. Non-chlorinated brake clean so it dries quickly. Make sure you check your wheel speed sensor, which is the ring back here. Make sure you find the sensor itself. Make sure it's not damaged by anything, which it's right down the very bottom. It's all good. No metal particles sticking all over it. Next thing you have to look at is on your axle itself. The sealing is done by a O-ring. You can see it right in here. You want to inspect that one, make sure there's no nicks, it's not rolled or anything like that. And if it's in good shape, the Ford says you don't have to replace it. This one is in good shape. We couldn't get one either. So I'm going to put just a wee bit of flange sealant on it, which is what you would use on a flange anyways. Just basically enough to wet it so it's gonna slide in easier. And not so much that it's going to hold it out because you don't want it to distort the flange against the hub. It's just something that I do. It's all good. Axle goes in. And I ran in the old bolts just to line up you saw it on the time lapse, to line up the rotor. And you just have to line up the whole thing with your 5 new torque to yield bolts. So they get torque to 50 foot-pounds plus 90, so I'm gonna ever so slightly bring them in. And then to torque them, don't need that anymore. One, 2. 3, 4. I'm just putting a little red dot so I know which ones I've torqued to 50, and I will go over them all again because you do have to unfortunately move this once. And 90 degrees. You can get a gauge for this, but that's about straight up and down, so 90 degrees would be right there. 1. We'll mark that one. 2. And that's basically how you'd get the flange back on, torqued, sealed, rotor on, and we're good. The rest of it's kind of standard. Cleaning up the hanger with the wire brush. Make sure you're wearing a face mask when you're doing this because there's a lot of dust in there, and after doing it yesterday, you get it all over the place, as you always do with brakes, and brakes are bad, but they're good. Make sure your slides are okay and they're in really good shape. You would take them apart, you'd lubricate them, just like always, and then with the caliper, you do need to push it back with a special tool. One of these manual ones. You have to line up your caliper properly. If you look down there, look right here on the caliper, you see there's 2 grooves. Those have to be lined up that way with it all the way in, and I will show you a little trick about getting it to the proper distance. Okay, another thing also, the pads do have a back and a front and a back. If you take a look, I put a little bit of Never-Seez on there. I like to do that just to dissipate heat quicker. There's a pin on this one and a opening for what would be for a wear sensor that these do not have. That one there goes on the inboard pad, and that lines them up with the slots on the rotor or the caliper itself. So put them in. It's always nice and easy. There we go. And the outboard pad. You'll notice I put in new shims. Always a best possible option. If you don't have new shims, get some different pads. There you go. Both of those are in. Next thing you want to do is you want to preset your piston so you're not fighting it in or anything like that. Get your calipers. You take a basic measurement across the pads there, and we got 2.210 for distance. It's not important what the number is. We're going to lock that off. Then we're going to take our special tool. My application, 14 mil for that end, and there's crescent wrench for the other end. Spin it in. And if you look at the tool, it has those 2 pins on there. You line them up again in that spot. This is the number 4 bit, if that matters. They're fairly universal. So then you got that snug. You take your 14 mil. And probably don't even need that. You're gonna spin that in. And there is a arrow on there. Go the proper way. Getting them started sometimes can be a real pain. Once they start going, you're good. If they do not go, you need to replace your caliper. So you tighten that a bit, tighten the other one. That's basically how you do it. Then you're gonna set those ears so they're top and bottom. Pull that out. And you're going to measure across there, and you're looking for that 2.21 inch. And once you get that, then it'll slide right on, and it'll be all good. Okay, so that's basically it. I'm doing the rear brakes on a 2019 Ford van. If you have any questions, put them in comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like button. And as Kurt would say, bye for now.
Bye for now.